Welcome back to the exciting book of Genesis. Hallelujah. All right, today we're going to be taking a look at chapter 12. And chapter 12 is about Abraham. Yes. All right, I'm going to jump right in. Beginning with verse 1, says Genesis 12:1, and it reads, Now Yahuwah has said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. So hereby we learn that Abraham's travels, his journeys from the time that he leaves from out of his father's house, can be likened unto a believer, coming out of their world, coming from their father's house. He's coming from his father's house, so he's not going to no longer have to follow his father's rules. He's coming out from his kindred, so he's not going to have to adhere to the traditions of his kindred. He's coming out of his country, so he's not going to no longer have to adhere to the statutes and ordinances of his country. And this is kind of like how Yah wants us. He wants us to come out of our world. He wants us to come away into a place where no one rules but him, where he doesn't have any competition. Amen. Yah is a jealous El, as he says. He doesn't want to share you with anyone. And he's not going to share his authority with anyone outside of his. Amen. So let us consider Genesis 26:2-3. It says, And Yahuwah appeared unto him and said, Go not down into Mitzrayim, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham's father, to Abraham thy father. And this is obviously Yah speaking and appearing to Yitzhak, Abraham's son. And what I'm trying to point out is that he too had to get away from the country that he was used to. He had to get away from his kindred. He had to get away from his father's house. Amen. And let us consider Genesis 28:1-2. It says, And Yitzhak called Yaakov and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughters of Laban, thy mother's brother. Now this is of course speaking to Yaakov. And he also had to leave from his father's house. He had to leave from his kindred. He had to leave from his country. Can you see that? Matthew 4:1. Then was Yahushua led up of the Ruach into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. Yahushua too left his country, left his father's house, left his kindred. And so what I'm trying to point out to you is the way of Elohim, and how the way of Elohim, centers around you leaving that which you are familiar with. You leaving your kindred, your country, your father's house, and going to a place where you have to be dependent totally upon Yah. And this is the way of Elohim begins. He wants you in the wilderness all to himself, so that he can teach you of him. Let me have my first reader read Genesis 12:2-3, please.
And I will make all of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curse thee. and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. And the angels of Yahuwah called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn unto Yahuwah, for because thou hast done this thing, and has not beheld thy son, thy only son.
That's good, sis. Thank you. What I wanted to point out was that when Yah calls you out of your country, away from your kindred, out of your father's house, it's not without consequence, but it's not without reward either. You know, we see here that even though Abraham was led from out of his father's house, from amongst his kindred, from out of even his country, away from his countrymen, that, you know, Yah makes him a promise that he will make of him a great nation, that he will bless him, that he will make a great name for him, and that he will be a blessing. Now, one of the things that I want to point out that was a part of that promise that he gave him in verse 3, and that is, he says, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Did you catch that? He did not say, and in your seed shall all the families of the earth. Rather, he did not say only your families or only your seed shall be blessed. He did not say that just those who stem from you will be blessed, did he? He said all families of the earth shall be blessed. See, and this is really important because, you know, people get misconstrued, you know, and they begin to think that, you know, Yah only had intentions for a certain little group of people. And that's just simply not the truth. As we can see here, his plan had always been to bless all families of the earth. He just chose one family to do it. But his plan overall was to bless all families. Genesis 22:15-18 says, and the angel of Yahuwah called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time and said, by myself I have sworn. Can't swear by nobody higher than him. So he says, by myself have I sworn, saith Yahuwah. For because thou hast done this thing and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And the seed shall possess the gate, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Again, now it's in his seed that all the nations of the earth, not just the Israel nations, but all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. You know, and in case you're wondering who this particular seed is, Galatians 3:16 teaches us, it says, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He saith not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Mashiach. Okay, so we see here the plan of Elohim from the very beginning. From the very beginning, we see what his plan was, and it was to bless all families of the earth and all nations of the earth. Amen? Don't let nobody tell you anything different. All right, Genesis 12:4 says, so Abraham departed as Yahuwah had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Okay, so 75 speaks to separation or cleansing, and you know it gives us a spiritual picture of holiness, because that's what holiness means, to be separate and clean. Haran, you know, speaks to mountaineer. You know, so it can speak to one who lives in the mountains or live in kingdoms. You know, Yah was calling, and as he calls all of his people out of the kingdoms in which they live into the kingdom of Elohim. Amen. You know, you have to come out of Haran. You have to be ye separate. You have to be ye cleansed. You know, now, the reason that that he was called out is age is revelatory, because it shows us a picture of holiness, set apartness. Hence we read in Leviticus 11:43 through 45. My next reader, please.
Ye shall not make yourself abominable with any creeping things that creepeth, neither shall ye make yourself unclean with them, that ye should be defiled thereby. For I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourself, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourself with any manner of creeping things that creepeth upon the earth. For I am Yahuwah that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we see here that the intent of Yah is for us to be holy. It is for us to be set apart. You know, now to be holy is to be set apart, but not just to be set apart for the sake of being set apart or separate. But holy means set apart for a particular use. And only that particular use. Because if you're set apart unto Yah, then you're set apart for his use and his use only. Now, if you share the use of you with someone else, then you're no longer set apart unto Yah. Then you're what they would call common. So you don't want to be common, you want to be set apart. Amen. You know, you want to serve Yah's purposes and Yah's purposes only. You know, so we see he wants us to be holy. Word holy is Kodesh, number 6944, meaning set apart, as I just went through. Now, hereby we learn that a holy one eats different than most people. You know, and that's important to understand, because if you're going to be set apart, if you're going to be holy and clean, then you shouldn't do the things that will cause you to become unclean, which is eating abominable things. You know, and with the type of doctrines that's going around today that, you know, you can have whatever you so choose, you know, they don't understand Scripture nor the principles of Scripture, because hereby we're being taught how to be holy and clean. Now, it stands to reason that if you go against this, you will become abominable, you'll become unclean, and therefore you won't be holy. So if you're going to be holy, holy eats a certain way. Exodus 31:13 and 14. My next reader, please.
Speak thou unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Yahweh, that doeth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you.
Okay, I'll stop right there for a sec. Okay, now, I want to point out with this that, you know, if you're going to be holy, if you're going to be set apart unto Yah, then not only do you eat a certain way, but you worship him on a certain day. Now, you can worship him any and every day, but you worship him for sure on one particular day, and that's his Shabbat. That's his Sabbath. You know, and he says, you know, his Sabbaths shall ye keep, that ye may know that I am Yahuwah, that doeth sanctify you. You know, so you're not going to be sanctified, you're not going to be holy, you're not going to be set apart if you're not keeping the Sabbaths. You know, for it is holy unto you. Okay, verses Numbers 15:38 through 40, please.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, that they put upon the fringe of the borders a band of blue. Ribbon of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of Yahuwah, and do them, and that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go a whoring, that ye may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your Elohim. I have given them thy...
That's good. Hold up right there for a second. Okay, so Numbers 15, 38 through 40, it teaches us something. It teaches us that if we're going to be holy, then we need to dress a certain way. You know, we represent ourselves in a certain way. You know, if we're going to be holy, we're going to have some fringes hanging off of our garments. You know, he says, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations. You know, and it's to help you remember to do all Yah's commandments. You know, so what I'm trying to point out is that if you're going to be holy unto Yah, then you're going to eat a certain way. You're going to honor him on a certain day. Your garb is going to look a certain way. And John 17, 14 through 17, please.
I have given them thy word, and the world has hated them, because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou shouldest take them out of the world, but thou shouldest keep them from the evil. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy truth. Thy word is truth.
Hallelujah. All right, so if you're going to be sanctified, if you're going to be holy, set apart unto Yah, you're not going to do it without his word. You're not going to do it without his word. So, you know, those who are set apart, who are holy unto Yah, you know, they eat a certain way. They honor Yah on certain days. You know, they wear certain things on their clothes, you know, to remind them to do Yah's will. And most importantly, they have Yah's word. They allow his word to separate them from those that are around them. They allow his word to sanctify them. They allow his truth, which is his word, to truly set them apart unto Yah. You know, 2 Corinthians 6, 14 through 17 has a message for all those who seek to be set apart unto Yah. Has a message for all those who seek to be holy and clean. Has a message for all those who seek to be like Abraham and come out from their father's house and come out from their kindred and their country and to allow Yah to rule over their lives. You know, 2 Corinthians has a message for all of those. It says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion have light with darkness? And what concord have Mashiach with Belial? Or what part have he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement have the temple of Elohim with idols? For ye are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim have said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Wherefore, come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Adonai, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. Can you see that this message, that this commission is no different than what Abraham received? He had to come out from among them. He had to come out from his father's house, come out from his kindred, come out from his country. He had to touch not the unclean thing so that Yah would receive him. Yeshayahu, or Isaiah 52, 7 through 11, how beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace, that bringeth good tidings of good, that publisheth salvation, that saith unto Zion, thy Elohim reigneth. Thy watchmen shall lift up the voice. With the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see eye to eye when Yahuwah shall bring again Zion. Break forth into joy. Sing together, ye waste places of Jerusalem. For Yahuwah hath comforted his people. He hath redeemed Jerusalem. Yahuwah hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our Elohim. Depart ye, depart ye. Go ye out from thence. Touch no unclean thing. Go ye out of the midst of her. Be ye clean that bear the vessels of Yahuwah. So if you bear the vessel of Yahuwah, if you bear the vessel of Yah, if you're set apart unto him, if ye are the temple of the Most High El, then you need to leave out. You need to leave out and go into that wilderness and let Yah rule over you. Genesis 12:5-7. My next reader, please.
And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, unto the plain of Morah, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And Yahuwah appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land, and there builded he an altar unto Yahuwah, who appeared unto him.
Hallelujah. Okay, so if we're going to be like Abraham and we're going to follow the way of Elohim, then we have to know that Yah is going to take us out of a place and he's going to bring us into a place. Now, the place that he's going to bring us into, eventually, we're going to have to go through our wilderness experience, but we're going to wind up in Canaan. We're going to go through our wilderness experience. We're not going to get around that. We're going to have to go through our wilderness experience, but we're going to wind up in Canaan. Now, Canaan means to humble or subdue. So we're going to wind up, we're going to come out of Haran. Remember, Haran meant mountaineer. Mountains are high, they're lofty. So you can look at a mountaineer as prideful, high and lofty, but he's going to bring you to a place called Canaan where you're going to be humbled and subdued. So you're going to come from a place of pride, a place of loftiness, and you're going to come into a place of humility. I pray that you can see that spiritual picture in there because he's painting it quite vividly. Canaan also speaks to the land of the merchants. Yes, and they will try to merchandise you if you let them. Canaan also speaks to the land of purple. Interesting story that I learned concerning the land of Canaan and its reference to being the land of the purple. Land of purple. The reason it was known as the land of purple was because all of the purple came from Canaan. They were the primary, if I'm not mistaken, the progenitors of the color purple. And they were the primary ones who made this purple. And it was a garment. It was a color that was well sought after, and it was super expensive. It cost more than gold at a time, and hence it became known for aristocracy and for royalty because they were the only ones who could afford it. But the interesting thing is that Canaan became known as the land of purple, and its people were called the purple people. And the reason they were called the purple people is because they made so much of this purple cloth that it stained their hands, and they were purple. I thought that was good. Hallelujah. Now it says that Abram came to the place of Sichem, and if we're going to follow the way that Abram went, Then we're going to have to leave up out of Haran. We're going to have to leave our lofty existence. And we're going to have to go through a wilderness experience and come into a place of humility. Amen? Okay, and then we're going to have to go on the way there, though. We're going to go through come to a place called Sikkim. You know, Sikkim speaks to the ridge or the neck. You know, the neck is the place of burdens. So what this scripture is painting a picture for us is that we're going to have to come from this lofty place, and we're going to have to go through the wilderness experience, and we're going to have to be humbled, and we're going to come to a place of Sikkim, a place where we're going to put, Yah's going to put a burden upon our shoulders. You know, he's going to put a burden upon our shoulders. Amen. We have work to do. You know, and it says, and unto the plain of Moreh. Now, the word plain is Elon. Number 436, it speaks to an oak from Ayil, speaking to a strong ram. I know a strong ram. His name was Yahshua. You know, that's plain. And Moreh means teacher. And that strong ram, I know, just so happened to be a teacher as well. So you can see within this a spiritual picture of us coming to the place of burdens and picking up that light burden that our Messiah Yahshua told us about, where when he said his yoke is easy, his burden is light. You know, we can see that we have to go and get our burden from that strong ram, and he's going to teach us what to do with it. Amen. And additionally, the word burden was also an idiom for the word of Elohim. You know, and so this is our burden. You know, we're to take the word upon our shoulders and we're to walk it out. We're to carry it everywhere we go. Amen. You know, that becomes our burden. You know, just as a validation for the burden being an idiom for the words of Elohim, consider Malachi 1:1, the burden of the word of Yahuwah to Israel by Malachi. You know, so hence the spiritual pic painted here thus far is that of a man prompted to pick up the burden of the word, you know, and carry it throughout his travels. Amen. Okay, Genesis 12:8, and he removed from thence unto a mountain of the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east, and there he builded an altar unto Yahuwah, and called upon the name of Yahuwah. All right, so if we're going to follow the way of Elohim that Abraham followed, you know, we're going to have to come to the mountain of the east of Bethel. A mountain on the east of Bethel. Okay, so Bethel, well, east, first of all, means the forepart or antiquity. Okay, west speaks to Yam or a sea. Bethel speaks to the house of Elohim. AI, whichever you prefer, speaks to a ruin, as if overturned. So if we continue in the way of Yahuwah, we'll eventually likewise find ourselves somewhere betwixt Bethel and Ai. That is, somewhere betwixt the house of Elohim and ruin. See, and in this position, you know, being on the east of Bethel, the light of Bethel will always rise upon us first. Hence, this is where he pitches his tent, and this is where we want to pitch our tent. You know, now, even though ruin is right ahead, you know, we're not fearing that because we're in the light. Amen. You know, and we see ruin ahead, and so this is a good place to build an altar and call upon the name of Yahuwah. Amen. You know, and this is an important concept, an important picture to to grasp, because if you follow the way of Elohim, you're going to come to this place. You're going to come from a place of pride. You're going to go through a wilderness experience that is designed to humble you. You know, you're going to come to a place where you're betwixt the house of Elohim and ruin. And you're not going to know what to do. And this is the place where you build your altar. This is the place where you call upon Yah. You know, Yirmiyahu says, in Yirmiyahu 6:16 says, "Thus saith Yahuwah, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein." Take note that it says that he was on the east of Bethel. The east speaks to the forepart or antiquity. So in other words, it's a spiritual picture of them being in the ancient part of the house of Elohim. Not the new part that got changed and got worked over and got refurbished and got, you know, not improved upon, but, you know, whatever the opposite of improved upon, diminished. You know, and if we look at the house of Elohim, we can truly see that it has diminished. When we look at the house of Elohim during the time of the Messiah and what he established, and look at it now, it's not a stretch of the imagination by any means to say that it has diminished. So we're all going to come to a place such as this, spiritually speaking. You know, so which way do we go? We're going to follow Abram. If we're going to follow Abram, we're going to go to the south. It says in Abram, in verse 9, it says in Abram journey going on still toward the south. Now the thing to understand is that south, you know, is where the light is. You know, because we're east of Bethel, and we have Bethel to the west of us, you know, because we're east of it, and ahead of us is ruin. We don't want to go that way. We don't want to walk straight ahead into ruin. So we're going to turn to one of the sides. North represents darkness. South is where the light is, but it's a whole lot of it. It's a whole lot of it. You know, when there's a lot of light, there's a lot of heat. And so south means parched. It means drought. And so this is the way that Abram is going to go, and this is the way that we have to go. Where is it going to lead us? Genesis 12:10. And there was a famine in the land. Well, what do you know? You go to the south, which means drought, and you end up in what? A drought. You find yourself in a famine. And that's exactly what's going to happen, you know, in our walk. You know, and this is important to understand, because when this happens, a lot of people think that they're doing something wrong. A lot of people think that, you know, this is where a lot of folks turn from the way of Elohim, because they like, you know, something not right. You know, it went from bad to worse. You know, it says in verse 10, and there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Mizraim to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. We're all going to have to go through a grievous famine. It must be understood that following the way of Elohim involves you going through a famine. You might as well just get used to the idea. You know, and let's take a look at other places in the scripture and see if it was congruent for the other patriarchs. In Genesis 26:1-4, it says, and there was a famine in the land. Well, what do you know? Beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. So don't make no mistakes. I'm not talking about the one with Abraham. It says, and Isaac went unto Abimelech, king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And Yahuwah appeared unto him and said, go not down into Mizraim or Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell of thee. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and I will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Okay, so we see Yitzhak, he went into a famine, right? Then we have, it looked like it was something under there. Then we have Genesis 45, 3 through 9. My next reader, please.
And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph, doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither. For Elohim did send me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years hath the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years, in the which there shall neither be earing nor harvest. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me hither, but Elohim, and he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all of his house, and ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste ye, and go up to my father, and said to him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, Elohim hath made me lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not.
Okay, so we see Abraham had to go through a famine. Isaac had to go through a famine. Hereby we learn that Yaakov also had to go through a famine. Joseph had to go through a famine. All of Israel had to go through a famine. And in Matthew 4:2, it shows us where Yeshua went through a famine. It says, and when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was after a hungered. In case you never fasted 40 days and 40 nights, that's a famine. You know, and so we see all the patriarchs had to go through a famine. Why do you think that is? Because Yah is showing us his way. He's showing us his way. Yeshua had to go through a type of famine. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been correctly showing us the way of Yah. You have to go through a famine. And during that famine, you're going to be wondering what's going on. You know, all the seeds that you're planting, you know, they're not bearing fruit. And you're saying, but you know, I'm sowing all these good seeds. I'm doing all these good deeds. You know, I'm giving my tithes and offerings. I'm planting all these seeds, but I don't see a harvest. It's because you're probably in a famine. See, we all have to go through this famine. And you say, seem like the more righteous I try to be, the worse off it get for me. We all have to go through a famine. So, you know, you have to understand this, because if you don't understand this, this is where a lot of people, this is their cutoff point. You know, this is their cutoff point. This is where a lot of them die in the wilderness, in that famine, because, you know, they start doing things contrary to the word of Elohim. And so they lose their protection. See, but if you follow along with the famine that Abraham went through, with the famine that Isaac went through, with the famine that Joseph went through, with the famine that Yaakov went through, and Joseph and Israel, all of them, and even Yeshua, all of them came out of the famine. They did not die because of the famine. You know, and we can take solace from Genesis 45:7. It says, and Elohim sent me before you to preserve your posterity in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Don't you know that even though you go through a famine, if Yah sent you in, he gonna bring you out. You have to trust and believe that. But just as you trust and believe that you are going to go through a famine if you continue to follow. You know, and I tell you this so that you don't think it's a strange thing. When it start getting hot and you start getting hungry and your harvest is looking sparse, I don't want you to think it's a bad thing. You understand? It's a part of the way. See, and if you understand that it's a part of the way, when it happens, you know, it makes it a little easier to go through. But if you don't know what's coming, then you start getting desperate and taking desperate measures. And that never turns out good. Genesis 12, 11 through 14. My next reader, please.
And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abraham was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair.
Hallelujah. Okay, so, you know, this is exactly what I was talking about. It worked out for Abram, but that don't mean it's going to work out for you. See, he resorted to desperate measures. You know, he started being deceptive and carrying on, and, you know, telling his wife to declare she is sister and all this, that, and the other. You know, I don't want you doing that. You know, see, because we already understand. See, he didn't have the word to lean upon. We do. So we already know it's going to work out even before it even happened. We already know what the outcome is. He didn't know that. See, he wasn't privy to that. You know, so he, you know, was feeling a little desperate, so he shot a desperate move, you know, and we don't want to do that. It wasn't his move wasn't without consequence either, you know, but you know that we're not gonna get into that right now. You know, verses 15 through 20, the princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen and buttocks and men servants and maid servants and she buttocks and camels. And Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou she is my sister? So I might have taken her to meet a wife. Now therefore behold thy wife. Take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent them away, and his wife and all that he had. You know, yeah, he got away, but it wasn't scot-free. He got away and he left out with great riches, but it wasn't for free. Later on, his progeny will spend 430 years in that same land serving Pharaoh. So, know and understand that the famine is coming. Prepare for it. Get used to the idea. And when you meet it, when you're met with it, just grin and bear it. Trusting and believing that Yah is going to bring you through. You know, he's going to bring you out and you're going to come out better than you went in. With all these families, they always came out better than when they went in. Isaac came out with 100-fold. Israel spoiled the Egyptians. They all came out better than when they went in. And so will you. That's all I have for you today. Pray it was a blessing.